1 in 10 people will have a seizure in their lifetime, and 1 in 26 will be diagnosed with epilepsy. That's 50,000 San Diegans. And for me, the number is really more than a statistic. So that's our parents, our siblings, our children, our family members, our coworkers. So anyone with a brain at any age can be diagnosed with epilepsy.
I first was diagnosed at 26. I had my first seizure working, I was on shift at a restaurant.
So Ziggy fell in September of 2016 in the hallway, and he had a tonic-clonic seizure in front of me. And about a month later, he had another one.
My daughter, Savannah, was typically developing until she was 2.5, and she had a seizure out of the blue. I ran into her room to see her in the throes of what was a tonic-clonic seizure. She was stiff, she was shaking, she was blue.
So my daughter Reiko was 12 when she was diagnosed with epilepsy. She was crossing the street with our younger daughter in the baby stroller, and she just stopped. We couldn't communicate with her, she couldn't hear us. It's like lights were on, but nobody was home. It was very scary.
Everybody has the same question, which is like, what is this? What's, you know, and it's the strongest thing you've ever felt. It's something you would stake your life savings on what it is, and you can't get one word in. Not just your brain isn't working well enough to describe it at the moment, or you're not a good enough writer to do it. It's that language fails.
The 16 years were absolute hell. We became prisoners in our own home on purpose. She could seize anywhere at any time. One day she might have 5 seizures, and the next would be a 500 seizure day, and then the next day would be 30, and then the next day would be 8, and you just never knew from day to day what you were gonna get.
I used to love to drive, for one, and I was in college. I drove for this university private taxi service, and I loved to do that, and that was tough at first.
Having a brother with epilepsy is scary, and it's challenging to have to watch him change.
I spray paint and, paint and everything, which requires dexterity and everything, but also like really, really tricky, like fractions of a degree dexterity. And that just goes completely out the window.
Ben's an artist. He loves nothing more than painting, and hasn't really had a great outlet in amongst all of the sleep studies and the appointments and the aftermath of seizures.
All you have to do is think about how your life would change if you could drop it any second and have a seizure. You know, what would your coworkers say? What would the people you live with say? What would your parents say? How would they treat you differently?
We were very fortunate. She did end up growing out of her seizures by the time she entered high school. And much to our surprise, just last summer while she was away at college in her junior year, it was her finals week, she ended up having a tonic-clonic, or what I still call old school grand mal seizure. And as a parent, getting that phone call 500 miles away that my daughter was in the back of an ambulance was very scary.
When I see patients go through what they go through, I think one of the toughest challenges is if they have to do it alone, or having the perception that they're doing this alone and without a support system. And I think the Epilepsy Foundation of San Diego sort of fills that void for a lot of people. It allows people to know that there's an organization here in our local community that understands their disease process, cares about them, and strives to really make their lives as fulfilling as possible, even if we can't get everybody seizure-free.
So at the Epilepsy Foundation, our main goal is to empower people to live their highest quality of life possible. So we have a myriad of services that include support groups that connect people to each other to know that they're not alone, and also resource share. We have individual counseling as well as family counseling, and including education.
Education is key. And so therefore the Epilepsy Foundation of America and Epilepsy Foundation of San Diego has done a wonderful job in terms of getting awareness out to the community, getting awareness out to patients.
So Sharon's Ride is a huge community day for all of the people we serve at the Epilepsy Foundation. There's about 2,000 people that come out just to celebrate being alive, being connected with each other, and we go out on Mission Bay and people run, ride, or walk Some people just like to hang out for the barbecue, but it's just a way that people get to come together and support each other, show up for each other, and get to see how many people are impacted by epilepsy in San Diego.
I like Sharon's ride because we get to walk around, and we get to walk around with friends like my friend Seneca and
Zechariah,
Sophia, Kai.
When I first started, in the epilepsy world, 70% of people with epilepsy didn't know the cause. And scientists now think that that number is as low as 30%. So we still need to do a lot of work for those 30%, but we're finding the cause of epilepsy in a lot of people.
I have the best job in America. I want to put myself out of a job, and I'm just so grateful for our volunteers, our staff, our board, our donors, our sponsors. You all make this work possible so we can serve many, many more people that need our resources.
I think a lot has changed in the 23 years that we have been living with epilepsy. Back then, nobody talked about it. And again, a lot of it had to do with stigma and perceptions and fear.
And one thing that I'm inspired by every single day when I come into work are the people that walk through our doors. They have such grit and resilience and courage, and I just know that healing and hope is possible, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for everyone for supporting the Epilepsy Foundation.
It can be cured. It is not contagious, and people live a full life when their epilepsy is controlled.
We stand on the shoulders of every advocate that came before us. So every person with epilepsy that talked about their epilepsy in the 70s and the 80s, before I ever came on the scene in the 90s, I'm standing on the work that they did. And hopefully the advocates will stand on the work that I do, or that you do, or that anybody does. And so we just need to keep advocating for a better future, because it's such a big problem. It really is gonna take all of us working together to make it better.
Come join Team Ziggy for Sharon's ride.
We'll have another team this year.